Coleman A. Young, Coleman Alexander Young, was the first African-American mayor of the city of Detroit. He was the longest tenured mayor. He served 20 years in office, 5 terms. He is considered one of the 5 greatest mayors of the 20th century of the city of Detroit. And he's the only mayor in the last 60 years to leave office with the city in a surplus, meaning the city's finances were in a positive position, not a negative position. We all want to be in a positive position financially. So he also did a lot of firsts. He integrated the police department. He redrew the city skyline. He laid the groundwork for the current entertainment district that the city of Detroit is enjoying. He was a monumental man. He was a scholar, and he is the reason that we are here today. To benefit the city of Detroit while he was mayor, Coleman Young, he did a lot of things that had either not been done in the city's history or changed the course of history for the city. One of the things that he did internally that people don't know about was to make his administration look like the people of the city of Detroit. So it was 50% white, 50% black. He appointed many women to key positions in the city of Detroit's government. And he also had a multicultural administration. It wasn't just black and white. He was the first mayor to do that. He also made sure that the city's police force looked like the residents it served. So when Coleman Young took office, the police force was 80% white. When Mayor Young got settled into office, he made it 50% white and 50% black. Even his own security detail always had one white man and one black man. He took a city that was financially in distress and made it financially healthy and kept it that way. I mentioned that he redrew the city skyline. The Renaissance Center was built while he was in office. Mayor Young was a monumental figure in that he saw what the city needed and put it in place. He kept the Red Wings from leaving Detroit by building Joe Louis Arena. He got Mike Ilitch, convinced him to renovate the Fox, and the Fox became the cornerstone of Detroit's new entertainment district, which is now the second largest entertainment district on the Midwest and Eastern Seaboard, just second behind New York City. So he did all of these things knowing that decades later, we would all still reap the benefits from it. And I'm just scratching the surface of the things that he accomplished in office. He affected automotive industry, education, even with the establishment of this very foundation. He was really an historic figure, and most of what we see taking place in terms of development in the city today, we can trace back and find Mayor Young's influence and hand at the beginning of those projects and processes. Can I name some lasting legacies in Detroit? Of course. And I'm actually going to start with the foundation, because when Mayor Young established his foundation, it didn't make a whole lot of headlines. But one of the things that very few people knew was that he gave away his remaining wealth in order to establish this foundation. At the time, it was legal for politicians to retire on their war chest funds. That's the money that they raised from campaigning. And Mayor Young moved into a 1-bedroom apartment instead and gave his away. He took about $3 million, and with half of that, just about half of that, he endowed a professorship at Wayne State University, which still exists today. And with the other half, he endowed the Coleman A. Young Foundation. And we have existed for 35 years because of that effort. Most politicians establish foundations that go away when they go away. And here we are still helping students like yourself to get through school. Other lasting impressions. When Chrysler wanted to move their plant there, within a year's time, he had to move or convince thousands of residents in the city to move. He had to clear churches, schools, land. He had to secure property for Chrysler's plant to get built. It was a big fight around it. People didn't want to give up their properties, which was understandable. But he got over 1,200 residents in the area to understand that if they didn't do that, then there was going to be decay in that neighborhood that lasted for 30 years plus. As a result, that plant now employs about 3,000 people, and they make the Chevy Volt there. So those people they're going to be working for a while in that neighborhood. and it has become a foundational institution in that neighborhood. People who live in that area, work in that area. That's a lasting impression. When you look at the riverfront and the Renaissance Center, what it started as and what it has become, the General Motors headquarters, world headquarters, it's just amazing to look at the impression that it's left. And then I'm going to go back to the police force because we're living in the era of the Black Lives Matter movement. But Mayor Young is a big part of the reason that we have not had to endure as much of the tension from police brutality issues in the city of Detroit that other communities have had to contend with. And it's because our police force to this day looks like the people it serves. We have more officers who tend to know their communities and have relationships with the people in the communities. And I'm not saying it's perfect. By no stretch of the imagination is it perfect. But at least there's familiarity between cops and the communities that they serve. And that counts. So again, I'm scratching the surface, but his impression on the city is lasting and it's tremendous. Why did Coleman and Young love the city enough to do what he did to benefit it? That's a great question. I think different people will tell you different reasons. But I will say this, Coleman Young was bred in the city of Detroit. He wasn't born here, he was born down south. But he cut his teeth in Detroit. And I think growing up, he was in position to see everything that the city could be and everything that was keeping the city from being its best. He got accepted to the University of Michigan and then actually was offered an academic scholarship. But when they saw he was a black man, they wouldn't offer him room and board. So he grew up in the city at a time when racism was still rampant. It was a little bit easier in some ways than it was in the South, but it was still very, very present. He was called before the House Un-American Activities Committee in his 30s. To testify because he was accused of being a communist. He stood up, and honestly, I don't know if the city would be what it is today had he not been the mayor. But I think we, again, owe Coleman Young a debt of gratitude for fighting that fight.